Latinos, you need to do better. We need to do better. Latinos, we need to step up.
I want to talk about this post that I saw because I saw way too many people that chose to be defensive instead of take accountability. But you know what's interesting? From every response that I saw, nobody sounded surprised. They just wanted to deflect. What about what the black community is doing right now? What about the attack on street vendors? What about the one black person that was mean to my family member? All of those are real issues, but the people that are creating harm do not represent the entire black community. Just like the problematic Latinos don't represent all of ours. We can ask for accountability together, and we should 100% expect members of our community to do better.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode, guys, we are going to be featuring Latinos from TikTok who decided to come forward and take accountability for their community. And what I admired about them especially is the fact that they are calling out their problems, you know, taking accountability, listing the problems they are suffering from, and asking their community to do better.
Right, I for one, in this episode, what I find really refreshing is these Latino are not trying to tell black communities what to do. And this just goes to show me as a person that they are some of the very few who have sat down and for the first time they have heard what black people are saying. They're not only hearing black people, they're listening to black people.
Right, and as we keep in mind, guys, that the black community has decided to take a break for the coming 4 years and sit aside, I feel like such works is the beginning of something great. If many of them come together to do this, I feel like for the coming 4 years, a different generation is gonna be birthed. You know, just like how a lot of communities right now are enjoying works from the past of past activists, you know. But what are we talking about, guys? Let's watch and then we come back and talk about it. Let us know in your comment section, what do you think about this episode? Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, right?
Road to 100,000 subscribers. We have, by the way, guys, we have a lot planned for you. When we hit 100,000 subscribers,
hit that subscribe button, share the video. Those who normally share the video, we want to thank you so much. Let's watch.
Latinos are racist. They are racist. Whether you like it or not, and whether you are one of those racist Trump-supporting Latinos, you're a fucking racist. I can't really tell you why Latinos are racist. It differs from every different family, honestly, but the root cause is the Europeans. They did that to divide Latinos and the black community and every other community that's out there, and it's embedded in the Latino community's mind. Some Latino families strictly want just Latino kids, grandkids, and so forth. They don't want anything else being mixed into it. In order for Latinos and the black community to come together and to unite, Latinos need to fix the anti-blackness.
Can we just talk about the anti-blackness that exists in the Latino community? Because it's a real thing. And it is only further perpetuating the division between our two communities and contributing to the overall oppression of our two communities. And I know there's going to be some people out there that's like, that's not even a thing. That's not a real issue. But it is. I grew up hearing freaking racist remarks made towards black people. And I heard it often. And I know so many other people did. And not only is it about anti-blackness, it's also about internalized racism that some Latinos, including myself when I was a child, felt the need to be white because I saw white people being treated better. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if I'm white, or if I consider myself white, or if I tell people that I'm white, then I am going to be treated better. I didn't understand as a child why I even felt that, but we are socialized as a society to want that unless you break out of the freaking matrix and you realize, oh my gosh, we're all being oppressed by the same freaking systems. So for us to have division and for there to be anti-blackness in our community is not helping anyone. One, it's just wrong, but two, it's only further perpetuating the oppression that already exists in our freaking society. So there's that part. And then there's this whole dismissal of Afro-Latinos because Afro-Latinos exist, yet sometimes are classified as not Latino when in reality they are Latinos, Afro-Latinos. And then there's this whole freaking connection to where we find ourselves in American history, okay? And the fact that many people, many Latinos, Latino men in particular, did not want to vote for a black and Asian, but a black woman, Okay? And then there's the intersection of machismo, internalized racism, anti-blackness, and all of it contributing, again, to the further perpetuation of oppression of our communities. That's what I need people to understand. When there's division between our two communities, that is purposeful, okay? Because these systems, these people in power want us to be infighting, when in reality, there's a lot more that we have in common. We are also being oppressed by the same systems. We should be supporting each other. And it is because of Black people and their advocacy that we, as Latinos and other communities, have the civil rights that we have today. The ability for us to even be able to have that privilege was in large due part to Black people, okay? So I need us to understand that. And I need us to have a conversation about that, because even if we were brought up that way, that doesn't mean that we can't change. That doesn't mean that we can't do better, because we can. Okay? Even if society socializes to believe that, we can change, we can do better.
And this starts with us, the younger generation. We need to call out our elders, our tios, our tias, our abuelos, our abuelas, our older cousins, what the fuck ever. We need to call them out. And this also goes for the Latinos who are racist towards the Asian community. There are 48 Asian countries, and Latinos have one word for all of them, and it's Chino. My fiance is Vietnamese Cambodian, and whenever I speak to my family, they always ask, oh, ¿cómo está el chinito? And I understand it comes from more of like a loving type of sense, but at the same time, we can't excuse that, even if it comes off, lovingly or just silly. It's a serious situation, and it's not something that we can just lightly throw around. And I do want to talk about some Latino activists that were there during the civil rights and were right there next to the Black community. So for example, this activist actually died in January, and his name is Jose Chacha Jimenez, and he actually helped found the Young Lords with the Black Panthers. Another person would have to be Gilberto Herena Valentin, who was actually the president during that time of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and Martin Luther King Jr. personally called him to help him bring the Latino community to the March on Washington. What I'm trying to say with all of this is, Latinos, you need to do better. We need to do better. Latinos, we need to step up. We need to actually confront our people with how they speak towards other communities. And another thing, Latinos need to stop being racist towards other Latinos, okay? Unacceptable. This message honestly goes towards all Latinos, whether you voted for Kamala or whether you're a fucking racist Trump supporter. You need to do better, and people need to call you out. And that's how it's supposed to be from now on.
Okay, so there's a lot of discourse right now around Latino content creators, Latino influencers that are choosing to stay silent during this time as our community is being targeted, as our community is being attacked. And I have to be honest and say that I am not surprised. And I'm not surprised for multiple reasons, which I want to go ahead and share with you. Leading up to November and what happened, I saw a lot of Latinos pop up and support him. A lot of Latinos say things like, well, my family came here legally, so everyone else should. I saw a lot of Latinos say things like, well, they're only targeting the criminals. When now you're hearing about reports of multiple people being rounded up or at least questioned that are not even criminals. You can look that up for yourself. I also heard of a lot of Latinos, frankly, just outright saying things like, it doesn't matter. That it doesn't matter to them because it's not impacting them. And that, y'all, is rooted in privilege. The ability to not care, or the choice, frankly, to not care about another group, especially of a marginalized group that is hurting, the ability to not care because it doesn't impact you, the ability to not care how the results went because it doesn't impact you, or you think it doesn't impact you, because we'll get there. There's privilege there. But what I also want to go ahead and mention, why I'm also not surprised that things went in this direction and now we find ourselves here. And now Latinos are like, oh my gosh, what? I didn't think that this would happen. Girl, bye. Like, we knew, and we tried to warn you, but here we are. Latinos, we have an anti-blackness issue in our community. I grew up with it. I grew up with family members who were not friendly towards black people or said things around darkness or blackness. There's machismo in our community that is still very rampant. This need to dominate over women. So machismo, racism, the disinformation and misinformation that is an issue in our community. So all of that together, I knew, and I said this months ago, that it would lead to, or it could lead to, people not voting for her. And here we freaking are, okay? So I'm not surprised. And also, internalized racism, the proximity or the need to feel like you want to be white, even though you will never be white. Never. It won't be a thing. All that comes together, and you have what we're going through now. So I'm not surprised.
This idea that black people have to earn their way out of racism is completely backwards. So I understand you as saying that if, as the result of the actions of some people, a group has acquired the reputation for harming other people, then the negative attitudes and treatment the entire group receives is understandable and justified. And what's more, if that group wants those negative attitudes and treatments to change, they have to do better. I highly suggest that you re-examine this belief in light of the fact that at the point at which Europeans labeled black people black, and by extension labeled themselves white, they are the ones who proceeded to loot, kill, and grape their way around 84% of the world for centuries. Because I don't think you feel that it would justify if people of the global majority were to treat white people the way that white people have treated black people, and maybe consider yourself lucky that we don't. Now, with respect to these black crime rates that people like you so love to inflate, if racism were to cease to exist today, those crime rates would automatically and instantly drop, because we wouldn't have innocent black people being arrested and incarcerated for nothing, and we wouldn't have black people being arrested and incarcerated for infractions that white people get away with all the time. But also, if you systematically oppress a group of people for centuries, it will create negative behaviors, and it shows the infinite grace of black people that it hasn't created more. And what's more, the people that it harms the most are black people themselves. So if you want these crime rates to drop, it is racism that has to cease to exist first.
Avengers! So I was reading some of the comments on that video that I posted about the Hispanic woman who talked about how black people weren't there for them as they were for us. And I just want to say, I don't want to confuse anybody, but I do not condone bigotry or racism of any kind. As I have said countless times before, these verbal hands do not discriminate. They rated E for everybody. Anybody can get it. And you get some people who say, because I am black, oh, well, you know, black people did this too. And I call them out too. It don't matter. They don't get exceptions either. Trust me, my block list and the list of people that have gotten this verbal work is very, very diverse. It's a melting pot. Look, I get it. It's going to be a long 4 years. That being said, we all got to share this planet together, whether we like it or not. I do not condone hateful comments from anybody, period. And from day one, when I came on this app, I have always called everybody out, and even in my personal life. Here's the thing, if y'all willing to stand with me and we can go fight against this nonsense that they're trying to do together, let's do it. But if y'all want to sit there and fight and argue, go ahead. But at the end of the day, we have to go and have these conversations for people to understand each other, whether you like it or not. That's all I got to say.
So guys, welcome back here. You know, I feel like this past election in America has had a lot of lessons to teach people, and I feel like for the most part a lot of black Americans kept saying things that people didn't understand because they were not in that situation. But we are finding ourselves where, you see, like today's episode, a lot of Latinos were coming forward to do the work that black Americans have been doing for a long period, and I feel like this is a good thing because they're those ones who've decided decided to take this period and take some positive teachings from it, and they've decided to spread that awareness, you know. And there was a guy who was talking about how growing up in his home, he saw the anti-blackness in his own community, in his own family, where his mother, his grandmother, the older generation would have a disdain for the black community, how they would treat them poorly. And he said growing up around him, he saw white people being treated better than every other person, and that is why he also tried to act white, wanted to be like white people. And I feel like this is where the notion of improving the race in the Spanish community came from, because seeing how the white community is really treated bad, that is, I mean, good, that is what they want to associate themselves with. The closer to whiteness they can get, the better for them. And if they can even get children from that community, for them that is called improving the race. But let you marry a black partner and bring them home. Before you even get to marry them, just date a black partner and bring them home. You're gonna be castigated and you're gonna be banned from your community for the same reason.
Right. And you know, they usually say our parents have lived their lives, our grandparents have lived their lives, and now it's up to the next generation to make a change if they truly want to see a change. And I'm really just so glad to hear most of these young Latinos want to make a change within their communities. And it starts by having conversations like this, believe it or not, whether or not you feel like it's going far, it is truly going somewhere. And I'm just so happy to hear, for instance, the Latina lady who was wearing red, she says that up until this day, even their parents still make side note comments about black people or anything that is associated with black people, you know. And it's up, I feel like, I feel good when they say it's up to them to make their parents stop being or saying ignorant things.
Right.
You know?
And you guys, you know, what Maureen has described, the lady who was talking about hearing the parents say some side note comments, you know, that is what right now a lot of people are recognizing as internalized racism. You know, what you're feeling inside about a said group, or the self-loathing people feel from inside, is what they bring out and they project that onto other people. Yeah, you know, which is quite wrong, and it's quite sad, because the people who've complained about them sharing the same neighborhood with the Latin community, and
not once did they ever interact
with them. There was a subscriber who was talking about how he had Latino neighbors, and they had fenced themselves away from the other people, and he was the direct neighbor to these people, and they would only greet him, and that is only if their eyes came by accident, they came into contact, they just throw quickly and get into the house without even waiting for the response, you know. And I'm like, if you're living in fear, that is because you've decided to live in that fear, because what has somebody done to you personally for you to be, or that neighbor of yours, for you to be living in fear of them, you know. And if that is
that you are around conversations that were very prejudicing and or racist, that you allowed your mind to be colonized, so you yourself fear something that is completely not there.
Right.
So you are living in your own fears, to be specific.
Right. And if fear is not the reason, then it's the racism. You just you're throwing that greeting around as a form of formality, you know,
or as a form of, I'm not racist.
Exactly.
They're bad people. I'm not the one with the problem.
Right. But I like that this generation of them, that those ones who are coming out to create, I feel like it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time, and
for
all of them to transform, or for at least majority of them.
And guys, believe me when I say, even if it doesn't seem like much right now, even if it seems like all talk right now, conversations are usually the headliner of change. Once people start having these important conversations, this is the reason why change is brought about fast.
Right.
And I can't say that America right now, most people acknowledge that there is racism just because conversations like this was started a long time ago by the likes of Farrakhan, Leo, you know, Leo Mohammed, you know. If had they never started such conversations,
it would be difficult to hold them
right now, or to even acknowledge that it exists. Take for instance countries like Europe. You'll go to a place where they insist they insist that there's no racism, and you hear the black people in that community say that yes, racism truly does exist because so and so will not rent to us in United Kingdom or in Spain or in Italy. Yet they say those countries are not racist, and if they are, they're not as racist as America. You know, I feel like black Americans have really become so vocal with their plight to a point where racism cannot be denied in their society.
Right, and by now, for you to even see such speakers come out, it's because the black community have communicated clearly and they've made it known how from where they are sitting or standing, how they feel, you know, so they've, at least these other communities have started digesting.
People have started hearing them, because even here in Africa, people didn't really used to understand the full scope of racism. If you had asked me, let's say 2-3 years ago, what is systemic racism? Maybe I just had an idea because of the system and the racism put together, but I really did not know what it looked like. If you tell me that when a black person and a white person go to hospital to deliver, the black person is most likely to die and the white person is most likely to be catered for before the black person, 2-3 years ago, I would not understand that concept, you know. So to some extent, I really want to thank the black community for the work they have been doing in trying to highlight these issues, right? Even if they're taking a rest right now, most of us have sat down and most of us have listened.
Right, and everybody's eyes right now is being opened, yeah, guys, so let us know what you think about this episode on the comment section. We'd really like to hear from you. I think my parting shot is if we find a lot more Latinos, because there's a big percentage of the population of the Latin community. This is just a small group. Yeah, but right now what matters is that they're putting in the work to educate their own, maybe coming from their own mouth, their own people will hear better, you know. I don't know how that sounds, but you know, they say sometimes you need to speak a language that they understand. Maybe coming from their own people, they're gonna understand and listen and hear.
Yeah, and we also do acknowledge that the Latino community of America, they really have a lot of work to do, because this is just a small percentage, a drop in the ocean of people who've seen the light.
Right, so guys,
or claim to have seen the light.
I'd like to hear from them 2-3 years down the line. Will they still be this aware, or
especially when the economy starts favoring everybody once again,
or will they quickly forget and let me not just say it, let's leave it
back
there
to their old ways?
Yeah, so guys, let us know what you think about this episode on the comment section. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, road to 100K, and we'll see you later, right?